This is Andy Purewal for Boxing Social in association with Betfred, and I'm delighted to be joined by legendary Cutman Stitch Duran over Zoom. Stitch, first and foremost, how are you doing?
Hey, man, I'm living the life right now. I'm on complete lockdown here in Las Vegas at the MGM, but it's for a good cause. You know, we're doing the top-ranked ESPN fights starting this week on Tuesday. Tuesday and Thursday, we'll be having fights, 13 shows altogether. But Top Rank brought me in, being that it's this pandemic and this COVID-19, and they're only allowing a fighter and two trainers. So Brad Jacobs from Top Rank called me and Mike Basil to come in and fill in as Cutman for those that don't bring in Cutman. So got me a job.
How exactly are you expecting the role to work?
Yeah, it's I'm learning like you are, Andy. So, but what it is, it's nice. They made some nice tickets. You know, Stitch Duran, Top Rank, and then Mike Basil, Top Rank. So what they're going to do is they're going to draw to see who gets me or who gets Mike. But the ones I've worked with before, like Tuesday, I worked with Shakir Stevenson, Big Baby, I worked with him, and another Italian fighter. So I've worked with them in the past. So I've worked with them in the past, and I get to work with them. They get priority. But the other ones we'll do with the drawing. It's kind of nice.
So what's kind of like your role now currently? Like, how is your day-to-day life going to play out away from a fight week or, you know, schedule?
Well, it's, you know, during this this lockdown, you know, I spent a lot of time with just my wife and I, and so I had a great time and nice to spend time with her. But coming back to work, it's entirely different concept than what we've ever done, you know. And you know, doing the first shows in the United States for boxing, we're kind of setting the platform, the blueprint for promotions all over the world. So I know everybody's going to be looking at what we're doing, the safety of the fighters and safety of everybody and all that. So it's a big opportunity. So, but the times I'll be here, for the most part, I'll be in my room doing interviews and watching TV.
Yeah, sorry about that, Stitch. We'll pick that back up there. Just a slight issue with the video. So obviously, like, you've just mentioned that you're going to be effectively on lockdown in the hotel room. What can and can't you do then away from just the normal fight week events?
What was the question again? I'm sorry.
What can you do then away from like the normal fight week events? What kind of restrictions are on to you?
Nah, it's like being in prison, bro, in a nice prison, right? Here I am at the MGM. I live in Las Vegas. I live 20 minutes away from here. But I got to be away from my family and everybody, for the most part, the public, until after the fight Thursday night. Then I'll go home. So I'll be home Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and then come back again Monday. But, you know, I've just experienced this for the first time. But I've done this a lot of times when I travel for fights. This is what we do. People think it's glamorous that we're, you know, all over the world and all that. But for the most part, we stay in our rooms. And so it's something I'm used to.
We actually saw, I think yesterday, Michaela Mayer come out saying that she failed her COVID test. What was your reaction to seeing that?
Yeah, you know, it's too bad. I was going to work with her also. I think that was one of the ones that were already on my list to work with. Plus, I love watching the girls fight. You know, they're quite combative. But you know, that's why they do the testing, and props to Top Rank, is they're doing everything systematic and to the point where you eliminate a problem like that. You know, it's too bad for Michaela and the other girl that aren't going to fight and aren't going to get paid. You know, but that's what the system. They developed this system to catch those type of errors. So, you know, I wish her the best.
Jacob, this is something that nobody would have ever had any form of experience before. But from your time working in the sport, working in MMA, just your entire experience in life, is there anything you can kind of compare the current situation to?
No, nothing at all. You know, I mean, outside of the fights with no audience, those I've done before. When I was with the UFC, of course, all the reality shows, the tough shows, you know, they were done without an audience. So I haven't experienced that here, but I already know what to expect. But the point of what we're doing now till fight time, it's entirely a whole different project. And, you know, like I said, that's why I'm glad to be part of it. So that, you know, like I said, this will be the blueprint for a lot of promoters that are going to be wanting to do shows. And how are you going to do it worldwide? So safety is the whole thing.
To go back to that Stitch, because you just frozen slightly there. What, you just mentioned your past experiences of working on behind closed doors shows and what you know. What should the fighters expect, not having fans there, having a different type of atmosphere to kind of have to deal with?
Yeah, and it's a good question, and it's good that I do have that experience, because when I'm wrapping the fighters' hands, or I'm before they go out there, I'll be able to explain to them that this is the situation, and don't expect to get encouraged by the crowd, because it's not going to happen. Listen to your coach. You'll be able to hear him a lot clearer because there's nobody yelling behind him. Yeah, it's I've gone through these many times, but for me to go ahead and project that to the fighters and the coaches, I think it's going to be helpful on our side.
I mean, it's interesting you say that, as a coach, if you're giving instructions, in the opposite corner, they'll be able to hear everything you're saying, whereas usually you might have the crowd's noise kind of distorting what you're saying. So whatever tactical advice you give, it's kind of, you're giving it away as well.
Yeah, well, you are, of course, but the point is, how many times does a fighter really listen to the corner, when they're fighting, so, it's not a positive nor a negative, but it's funny, and you're right, we'll be able to hear the other corner telling their fighter what to do as we're yelling to our corner, telling our fighter what to do. So that's the difference, and that's why you got to stay focused. The fighter themselves, that's why you got to stay focused and stick to your game plan.
We obviously know, Shakur Stevenson's fighting tomorrow night. He's going to be defending his world title. What kind of, or how high up with regards to a level of fight and a quality of fight should we expect to see behind closed doors? For example, should we expect to see the likes of Wilder Fury 3 behind closed doors, or Fury Joshua if that fight was to happen? What kind of level of a fight do you think these shows will kind of see and we'll see?
That's a good question that I don't think anybody has an answer to right now. But if I was a gambling man, of course, living in Las Vegas, I would say for the next 6 months minimum, we'll be doing these type of fights. And if you ask me 6 months from now, I'll be able to give you a different answer, maybe. So, but it could be a timely process. I think now, especially like here in the United States, where actually worldwide, even in the UK, where everybody's protesting, and you have this COVID-19, and you're supposed to do that social distancing. We'll see in a couple of weeks from now whether that is going to make it a lot harder for us down the future. So it's crazy. It's like the purge. It's like Total Recall all at once, and nobody knows where we're going. So we'll see what happens.
Stitch, was one thing I've always been interested to ask you, and I haven't actually had the chance to because we don't have the time to have this type of interview effectively, is, how does one get involved into becoming a Cutman? Take me back to, your roots and your beginning. How did you kind of get involved into the industry and the job that you have these days?
Yeah, I'll tell you, first of all, I get calls all the time, emails, messages. Everybody sees what we do as a Cutman, and everybody wants to be a Cutman. So, I get doctors, paramedics, nurses, EMTs, your friend, everybody wants to be a Cutman. So they ask me, and I tell them, I said, look, first of all, you got to spend hours and days and weeks and months and years in the gym working with these fighters, get the mentality of a fighters, get their confidence, wrap their hands, and for free of charge, let them get confidence in you. You work a corner, and eventually you graduate yourself to being a Cutman, and you learn as you go. But there's no schools. I've done seminars to try to teach guys, but it doesn't guarantee you that you're going to be a good Cutman. You have to study the game. But I got started. I had my own school of kickboxing, and I was a trainer and promoter. And so being a Cutman was one of the things I had to do because I liked it, number one, but economic reasons. And then I made the move to Las Vegas going on 26 years ago just to follow my dreams and be a Cutman. And then it was only boxing. And then the UFC came around, and Dana brought me in. And from there, it kind of changed my whole life. And now I'm doing bare knuckle fights, MMA, boxing, movies, all because I'm a Cutman.
Start off with kickboxing. I actually used to do kickboxing myself up until probably 4 or 5 years ago. I know how demanding a sport that can be. Why did you start off in that sport? Why not go straight in for like a boxing or in another sport?
You know, it was crazy because I grew up as a farm worker in California. I'm Mexican by nationality, so you know I was the guys that picked the peaches, the tomatoes, the cotton, apricots, and I said, if you ate it, I picked it for you, right? So I always wanted to play American baseball, but I couldn't go to college. I had no money, so I joined the Air Force in 1972, and in 1974 they stationed me in a place called Thailand. I didn't know what Thailand was, bro, but I knew that if I went to the Orient, I wouldn't study the martial arts. So I saw my first Muay Thai fight, and from there, that just kind of convinced me. So the following Monday, at the base, at the gym, for the GIs, they had Taekwondo. They had Korean instructors. Well, Taekwondo in Thailand, to me, it's the same shit. What did I know? So I started training Taekwondo, and about 3 months later, the Koreans left, and the Thais took over the program, and they kind of transitioned us into the Muay Thai system. And as a matter of fact, was a student instructor at that time, and it's kind of like my brother is Master Skin from Manchester. We trained together, and Master Toddy, you know, that was during that era in Thailand, and that's what got me going, you know, and came back to the States, and kickboxing was just at its infancy stage. So I was still in the military, and I joined karate tournaments and beat the shit out of everybody with just my legs. You know, one guy said I was kicking too hard, you know, and but that's the style I learned and got into boxing when I got to the States, and then opened up my own school of kickboxing. Crazy, huh?
It certainly is. I remember there was one point, you know, just before the UFC came in, there was a lot of talk about kickboxing as well. Why do you think back then kickboxing was just never able to take off? Kickboxing just never quite got the recognition that we see the UFC getting now.
Yeah, not at all. You know, I mean, you know, you looked at the K1s, and those were the high end kickboxing cards. But yeah, it just never really kicked in as big as it should have. When I got back to Thailand, I used to work with Dennis Alexio. Dennis Alexio at that time was probably the best athlete I'd ever met in my life. He was a kickboxing world champion, and you know, as a light heavyweight, a cruiserweight, a heavyweight, just a badass dude, man. And if you remember the movie with Van Damme, he was the brother in the wheelchair. So he was a legit Dennis Alexio in the movie Kickboxer. But yeah, so who would have thought? But yeah, MMA kicked off like this. You know, people want action, and a lot of times, like the Muay Thai style with the music and all that, that's part of their culture. But the people outside of the Thais didn't understand the culture and thought it was quite boring. And you know, the strategy of the Muay Thai was a little different. And they just never really kicked in the United States. And I think more in Europe, it did better than it did in the United States.
Moving on to, you know, you're working with UFC and boxing, two very different sports, but what are the major differences in your own mind when you're in the corner of either an MMA fighter or a boxer?
Well, MMA, the cuts are more multiple. They're a little bit bigger. You know? Depends on, you know, the elbows or the knees or, you know, just the ground and pound. And but multiple cuts are something I could work with. They're probable, highly probable. Boxing, shit, you get one cut, man, I could be eating popcorn and working on the cut at the same time. You know, it's kind of nice. You go on vacation when you work boxing. So if you work MMA shows, then working cuts in boxing becomes easier. And I tell a lot of the boxing guys that if I was going to hire a cut man, I would hire somebody that has MMA experience as a cut man, because they've seen it all. Big difference. Now I'm doing the bare knuckle fights here, and you think MMA gets cut. Well, this guy's a different level. It's, you know, 60-70% cut ratio. Guaranteed work almost. So, yeah, cuts. But that's the only way you're going to get good at this, Andy, is you could read books and you could do this, but unfortunately, the only way to be good at it is to be in the trenches.
Do you feel there's more of a pressure on you, though, in the sense, say, I know you wasn't in the corner for this fight, but when Tyson Fury fought Otto Wallin, he had that, you know, that deep cut which hindered his eyesight, and there was a lot of talk after that, should the ref have stopped it? You know, in boxing, we see cuts like that where the refs can stop it, whereas in the UFC, the cuts like that, it's kind of like fighters will just get on with it and they'll go through it. Do you feel more pressure in the sense that you have to kind of try to to stem the tide there and try not heal the cut, but just like work on it so it doesn't open up as badly as it could?
Yeah, no, of course. Whenever you get a cut like, let's say, Tyson Fury's cut, then, the thing about it is you got to sell yourself to the doctor and to the referee and to the fighter, that let them know that the cut is okay. And keep in mind now, Andy, the reason a doctor or a referee will stop a fight is because a fighter is at a disadvantage. So the thing with Tyson Fury, even though the cut was real big, it wasn't really affecting him visually. And, Jorge Capetillo, we were talking about it today at breakfast. He did enough to stem the tide to where it didn't become an issue. Tyson Fury ended up winning the fight. And then they brought me in for the rematch with Deontay Wilder just because of the cut. And if it happened again, then, they wanted somebody with a little bit more experience. And credit to Jorge Capetillo. Outside of Tyson Fury wanted me, outside of Top Rank wanted me, Jorge Capetillo, the Cutman that worked with him before, told Tyson Fury, you know what, get stitched, because this is such an important fight, and he has a lot more experience than me. So a lot of respect to him for that. He didn't have to do that.
What was it like being in the corner for Tyson, knowing you worked with Vladimir when he fought Tyson, I think it's 5 years ago now?
Yeah, it was different. But, I've done, in MMA, I do it all the time, working with Vladimir Klitschko, I told Tyson Fury, when you fought Vladimir, I thought Vladimir just had a bad day. But then when I saw you fighting Deontay Wilder, I understood that your style is what made Vladimir have a bad day, but what a good guy, man. For me, it was just, I've had a lot of great moments in my life, Andy. That one really jumps up to the top because he's such a good guy. His brothers were such good people. The team, everybody was just like the way it should be, having fun, going out there, high energy, and doing what you're trained to do.
You've worked with some phenomenal people throughout your career, some brilliant names. For you, though, who's the one that sticks out? Who's the one who was just always easy to get along with, who just did whatever you asked of him?
Well, the Klitschko brothers, both of them. They kind of fall up to the top also because they're such good people and no entourages and very respectful and just everything that they did was first class. And it was just their nature. That's the way that they are. They would stop and, a fan would want to take a picture. They would take a picture with them. They would give them those times. So they were good people.
Obviously, working with Tyson, what is he like behind the scenes? We all see a glimmer of it over social media, and he's doing his home workouts at the minute. What is Tyson like in the gym when you're there?
Super guy, man. Well, let me add this, yes, but he's 100% focused. And, the thing with Tyson Fury is I came into camp 2 weeks before his fight. So I got to see him right at the point when he started to peak in sparring. So I get to see the good side of him, and he performed well. But one thing I got to give him credit for is the 3 minutes that he was training, working out per round, whether he was jumping rope or shadow boxing, those 3 minutes he stayed focused. And then that minute break when he would joke around with everybody. But he was that disciplined that, you see guys shadow boxing and they're shooting the shit and all that, or guys are jump roping and they stop and they talk to you. He kept doing it 3 minutes at a time. So, but a good, fun guy, man. Good, fun guy.
There's a lot of talk at the minute about that potential undisputed fight between Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. Stitch, if we was to see that in your lifetime working in the sport, how big of a fight would it be?
Super big. Vladimir Klitschko, Anthony Joshua was super big. But being that both these guys are Brits, I don't know if you could have it in the UK, man. You may have to go somewhere and open up a big old giant arena and have it there, but it would be mega big. Mega big.
Moving away from them, another guy I've always wanted to ask you about is Andre Ward. What was Andre Ward like to work with?
That was another guy that was first class all the way, top guy. And Andre, I knew him since he was a kid, and because we were all living in Oakland, right? And he would always say, Stitch, when I go pro, I want you to be my cut man. I hear that all the time, right? But he was a man of his word, and I did every fight that Andre had except 2 of them because I was already booked with a UFC and I already had visas to go to these countries, and I didn't want to, burn the UFC or anything like that. So I was already committed. But what a nice guy, man. Super good kid.
Andre went out at the peak of his career. He went out on top. He had nothing left to achieve. There's always been talk, if he came back, what more could he do? Who could he fight? Do you feel like he still could have something more to offer? Have you ever had a talk with him and he said, I'm thinking about it? Have you ever said, is it worth a comeback or?
No, I never have, and but everybody's asking that question, right? And I don't want to be one of those guys, right? And, but if he's ready, and if he would ask me, of course, at this stage of his game, this stage of his age, and this stage of his mental capacity, I'd say, yeah, of course. Muhammad Ali, when he went to prison, he had a little bit of time off, but that time off, he came back as good as he ever was. So Andre Ward would never lose nothing because he's so disciplined in what he does.
Stitch, before I do let you go, because I know you're going to have to shoot off in a little while, I just want to get your thoughts on the YouTube boxing scene now. The first time I met you, I believe, was in Miami for the Jake Paul and Anis and Gibb fight. Going back to that, what's your whole reflection on the entire event and what went wrong for Gibb?
Well, let me start off with KSI and Logan Paul, because that's the first time. I didn't know who KSI was. I didn't know who Logan Paul was, right? And I know Vidal Riley brings in KSI to the gym to work with us in Las Vegas. They asked me to work with them. Well, of course, for me, it's all economics and it's all doing what I do, right? And they tell me this guy's a superstar and YouTuber and all that shit. And, but when he comes to sit down, I start wrapping his hands. I said, look, man, they tell me you're this and they tell me you're that. I don't know who you are, but here you're a fighter, and so I put him in that mental game. But he did good. More of an athlete than Gibb. And God, I love Gibb, man. When I first saw him, I looked and I said, oh, shit, this guy has a lot of work to do. And he did. But I got to give Gibb some credit, is that he worked like a horse. And he transitioned himself from that guy that didn't even know who I was. So what's that tell you, right? So he just wasn't in the mix of the game of boxing, but he put himself in the mix of boxing. And a lot of the sparring that he did, he took a lot of shots, but he gave a lot of shots. And I think this one here, just the lights and the excitement and all that, put him a little bit in the paranoid zone. But taking nothing away from him is Jake Paul's an athlete. He's been through these combative stages, so he knows what it was like. But yeah, props to Gibb, man. He lost no credibility in my heart, and as a matter of fact, got a lot of respect from me because I saw him go from being here up to being a fighter.
There's a lot of talk about that potential KSI and Jake Paul fight, Stitch. What are your thoughts on it? Do you see that fight happening? Have you spoken to KSI at all about it?
No, I haven't. I know that's probably a fight both guys want. There's probably a fight Eddie Hearn wants. But yeah, of course, I think if it happens, I'm sure I'll get the call to work with him again. And yeah, we really picked up a good bond. The whole team working with all these guys was pretty special. It just, they come into our world just like doing the movies, yeah. Creed and all that is even though they're actors, they come into our world of boxing, right? Well, the same thing with KSI and Gibb and even the Logan brothers. They came into our world and they performed, So yeah, of course, I'd love to do it again.
Having worked the corner for both the fight against Logan Paul and Jake Paul, from what you've seen, who do you think would give KSI a tougher test? Do you think Jake Paul will give him a tougher test, or do you think Logan was a better of the two?
Yeah, it's tough to say because the competition of the fights were different. Jake Paul, like I say, was more of an athlete than Gibb. So it was easier for him to show his hardware because the defense was a little different. KSI and Logan Paul did very well. So I don't know. I don't know which of the two. But I think if it's going to happen, it's going to be Jake Paul again. And it was funny, man, because I walked out of the hotel in Miami with Gibb and that. Well, we were going to meet for lunch. And Logan Paul's father comes up to me and wants to take a picture with me. And I don't know who he is. And then he tells me that he's Jake Paul and Logan Paul's father, and wanted to know if I'd be interested in working with them, right? And I said, well, shit, I freelance. Here's my card, you know, if they fought somebody else. But if they fought Gibb or KSI again, I'm already committed to those guys. But for him to come and see the value that I had, then bring me into the table, he could see it, you know. So I thought that was kind of fun. And I knew it was a different world, man, when I walk into, usually when you walk into the dressing rooms, right, you put your stuff in the dressing rooms, and then the team goes out to the ringside, and we see the corner where we're going to be at, and we go through, you're here, etc. So me, it was Vidal and then the other team, and I knew it was a different clientele when I walked out, because usually people, hey, Stitch, can we take pictures? Shit, everybody's yelling for Vidal, you know, hey, Vidal, pictures, you know. So I knew it was a different clientele.
Just a final word, Stitch, before I do let you go. A lot of talk about Vidal Riley, the excitement around him and the potential he has. When you see him, just how highly do you rate him?
Yeah, I you know, as a fighter, yeah, I worked his pro debut because I could. I was here, and I told him, I said, I want to do it because I want you to know the importance of having a good team in your corner. But the kid could fight, no doubt about it. He's smart, he's intelligent. But I tell you what, now, Andy, as a coach, when he worked with KSI and Gibb, for being such a young man, did such a great job, way years above his age as a coach. And like I said, I've worked with Emmanuel Stewart. I've worked with so many other great coaches that mentally and the way he expressed himself and giving instructions, he was a veteran. So props to him on both sides.
Now, Stitch, before I let you go, as I say, final word to you. What would you like to say to everyone who does tune in to watch our interview?
Just tune in. You know, Andy asks good questions, and it's nice just to do a little bit of barbershop talk here. But, yeah, you know, you guys enjoy fun and stay safe and check out the fights.
Jacob Stitch Duran, as always, it's been a pleasure to catch up with you. I appreciate you giving up some time, as always. Stay safe. Enjoy this new lockdown type of environment you'll be feeling for these coming months ahead. It's been a pleasure, mate. And I'll hopefully speak to you soon in person. Thank you for speaking to Boxing Social.
That's it, man. In person would probably be the best way.
100%.
All right.
Look after yourself.